isn't the way I am the seed of the father. He is the seed of the grandfather. Who is the seed of Bahu Acha? He came from Calcutta. Stick on a bag on his shoulder. Vito banana capra. So I am part seed of India. The Indian ship on this level bind together two races in unity. There was no more mother Africa, no more mother India, just mother Trinity. My Bahuka jump on the sugar cane, drum in the roady plain. So Ram Logan must stay professional. It's a party pie. Brotherhood on the board. Brotherhood on the board. Choose recipe of color, Mahuta had to make that journey for I to have sympathy. So it is a great privilege to have such unique heritage. 50% Africa, 50% India. I have no duty to holiday, emancipation and arrival day. This battle has made a journey, 150 years gone already. So whether you're Hindu, Muslim, Christian, let's work this man hand in hand. We could only prosper if we try. Achahaji pie, brotherhood on the board. Brotherhood on the board. Kumayo, Zimbabwe. Oh my head in the way I know. Oh my head in the way. Oh my head in the way I know. Oh my head in the way. Oh my head in the way I know. Don't give back to African descendants if they want to know the truth. They catch him back to you. And somewhere on that journey, you will see a man in a dhoti saying he prays in front of a chanty. Then and only then you'll understand what is the cosmopolitan nation. There's no room for prejudice at all. United we stand, divided we fall. So whether you're Muslim, Hindu, Christian, just know that in this land we could only prosper if we try. Chachi man, brotherhood on the board. Chachi man, brotherhood on the board. Chachi man. We should learn to be one. Our ancestors came by boat. Take the salt water in your throat. You see, from and Amanda, great grandpa and grandmama. One was a slave and one was in danger. But the religions of color didn't interfere with their love for each other. Nani, nani. I am proof of racial unity, and that is the way everyone should be. Everyone should have each one in their prayer. Let's show each other we care. As we all know, incoming ball high. Unity is strong. Brotherhood of the boat. Brotherhood of the boat. In the way, oh my head in the way, oh my head in the way, oh my head in the way, if you want to get rid of enmity in this country, just raise your hand. You want to get rid of enemy in Trinity, raise your hand. Oh my head.
Oh, yes, good evening and welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday night. A Friday evening for some of you, a Friday afternoon for some of you. It's Politics 101. Jiaji Bai, Brotherhood of the Boat, Brother Marvin, one of the signal calypsos of our time, making a plea there for national unity. I keep saying over and over again, and I keep saying it, I'm going to say it every day. I'll say it every day. You don't go to Calcutta and Madras and hear that. That can only come from the Caribbean. You don't go to Dar es Salaam or you don't go to Nairobi, Kenya, and hear that. That could only come from the Caribbean. Calypso could only come from the Caribbean. Yes, we brought the rudiments of it with us when our foreparents came across the Middle Passage, but we have turned it into our own. Calypso is a Caribbean thing. I keep saying Tendulkar and Kohli could have come from the Caribbean, but Rohan Babulal Kanai or Alvin Isaac Kalicharan could only come from the Caribbean. They couldn't come from India. I repeat that. Tendulkar and Kohli could have come from the Caribbean. But Rohan Babulal Kanai, falling on his back and hitting the ball out of the ground, could only come from the Caribbean. It's a story. It's a daring story. It's a story that's mixed up with the slave plantation and the barrackyards of the indentured period. It's a response and a pushback to colonialism in a particular manifestation. Bavuna, the young black captain from South Africa, could have come from Antigua or St. Vincent. But Etmaya and Lara and Richards couldn't come from South Africa. They had to come from the Caribbean. When you saw Isaac Vivian Richards walked out with that swag, chewing that gum, with that bat in his hand, that could only be the product of our Guyana and Caribbean. Welcome to Politics 101. They're celebrating the 40th anniversary of the 1983 Guyana team. I remember that well. And I'm sure our guest tonight, Dr. Vince Adams, it was past his time. He had moved on by then, but he would remember 1983, that 1983 Guyana team that swept everything before it. Welcome to Politics 101. Welcome to Jiaji Bai, Brotherhood of the Boat. A request made by Amanza Walton this year, who came on here a couple of nights ago and showed that she knows our Calypso. And she requested, of course, the Ganges Med the Nile, which we played last night by King Michael David Rudder. And tonight, I'm sure when you heard Brother Marvin, Umaye, you will remember that song. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday night. It's good to be alive and it's good to be a Guyanese. It's good to be West Indian. Don't give up any part of your identity to anybody. When they tell me I'm an Africanist, I say, thank God. I'm black, I'm proud of it. But I'm not only that. If you want to ghettoize me there, then you're doing a disservice to me. I am Guyanese and I'm not allowing you to tell me I'm not. I always say when I'm in Guyana, nobody asks me, are you a Guyanese? No matter where I go in Guyana, they don't ask me if I'm a Guyanese. I will come out by boxing. When I am in Guyana, I'm a Buxtonian. When I'm in Buxton, I'm from Bottom Station. Where you come from, by way of Buxback Brandside by? Oh, no, I'm Bottom Station. And then when I left and I go down the road or I go up the road to Golden Grove, Vance Grove, I become a Buxtonian. And when I jump on the plane and I land over there in PR Code, I become a Guyanese. Where you from? St. Vincent? No, Guyana. And when I land at JFK, I become a West Indian. And when I fly from JFK and I land in Arizona, nobody asks me whether it's a West Indian or East Indian or what Indian. You are a black man. I am a black man. In one day of traveling, I changed my identity before five times. I bring all my identity. I am all of that. And I don't have to be one to be the other. And my partner, Vincent, we're going to say, I got one over you, boy. I got one over you. I said, Douglas. I said, Douglas. I said, Douglas. That's another identity. Identities are what we are. It means that what we identify with. And it depends on what you're doing. They used to put Guyanese on the bench in Barbados. And while they put in Guyanese on the bench in Barbados, I in Barbados many times and see Carl Llewellyn Hooper walk out on Kensington Oval and all them Bajan on their feet. Sir Carl Hooper. They just put the Guyanese on the bench, you know. Because when Hooper walks out on that piece of ground called Kensington Oval with a bat in his hand, he's the artist supreme. And he's not a Guyanese artist, he becomes a Caribbean artist. Don't fight the identities. Don't fight the identity. Sometimes we are in contradiction. Don't fight the identities. Nowadays, when you're watching cricket, and sometimes then go on the back foot and they lift the front foot, and right away they say, "Run, that's Garden Greenwich, boy. That's West Indian. Only a West Indian could do that." Nowadays, I see people playing hook shot forward the square. Vince Adams will tell you when they're coaching you and the short ball coming, going backward the square. Playing a ball coming 90 miles an hour to you forward the square is a West Indian thing. Nowadays I see one of them trying to play cover drive over cover. They call it inside out now. Only a West Indian could do that. Our identity, don't give it up. Do not give up not one of your identities. Fold them all together because they all belong to you. And they all say something together. Together it says something. You see, I do not want a united Guyana without Afro-Guyanese, without Indo-Guyanese, without Amerindian Guyanese, without Douglas Guyanese, without Portuguese and Chinese. I want a Guyana to include all of those. I don't want them to go away at all. I want the Indo-Guyanese there, I want the Afro-Guyanese. As I said, we are perhaps the only people in the world who gonna eat a dal and rice hot like a pepper. Plenty pepper, eat your dal and rice at 10 o'clock. And then you're gonna need cook up round the corner by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And then you go up the road and you're gonna eat sauce and black pudding. And then you're gonna lash that down with a little El Dorado or a Banks beer, or with little ginger beer or sorrel. And it don't turn up your stomach. Only we stomach can carry all of that. You give a black American all the mix of, oh gosh, this is too spicy for me. It's just, only we. Jerk chicken could only have come from Guyana and Jamaica and the Caribbean. Could only come from there, couldn't come from nowhere else. My mother tell me when she first come to America in the 1960s, they used to throw her pig foot, cow face. They used to throw them thing. Cow heel. They used to throw them thing. Now you go in them supermarket in Brooklyn and Washington, D.C., them thing, there's man. Who made them man? We. West Indians. They should show them thing. It's good to be Guyanese. Good to be West Indian. You be you and me be me. That is the thing that make me so sweet, say David Rudder. That's the thing that make us so sweet. How beautiful is it to be Guyanese and to be West Indian, with everything that comes with it. With everything that comes with it. We are the only people in the world. Chandra Paul was a grafter. He grafted for his runs. In that way, he was a little bit like Gavaskar, but they never call Gavaskar the tiger. They call Chandra Paul tiger. He graft for his runs like Sunil Gavaskar, but he graft like a tiger. Sunil Gavaskar graft like something else. That is why only in our, good evening, Shelley Douglas, is only we Guyanese and West Indian concerned, we gonna give you a good abusing, a good cussing out, to make a distinction between bad cussing out. Only we could give a song abusing to make a distinction between unsung abusing. That's why I say when you see Jack Dio lift up his frack, he ain't cussing like Miss Rose. He cussing like Jack Dio. You see, Miss Rose used to give a song abusing. Jack Dio don't know about song and good abusing. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101 on a Friday night. This is the night that God ordained for us to meet and greet, because Friday night in the old days used to be payday. You draw pay and you're ready to have a merry time because you draw pay. That's why the teachers were out there talking about your pay. You pay your cash money. Cash money. Good evening. Welcome. You notice how the government is fighting, but we equal to them. They sit down with the teachers and they agree. After the teachers say we ain't rolling from 2024, we rolling from 2019. But once the news come out and the open, we start run with it. And so we win, the teachers win. They say, oh no, we didn't agree on 2019, we agree on 2024. We gonna stay with them. We gonna stay with them. We're going to stay with them. They want to deny the teachers their due. Welcome to Politics 101. Please share the link. Please share the link. Those of you who have not followed our pages, please do that. Politics 101 with Dr. David Hines on Facebook and on YouTube. Please follow the channel there on YouTube. And or Hinds'Sight with Dr. David Hines on Facebook and YouTube. Please follow and share the link because we're going to be talking it tonight. Dr. Vince Adams is here. Let's bring in Dr. Adams. Dr. Adams, good evening.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, Dr. Hines. How are you doing, man?
I am on top of the world because it's Friday and it's 2 days since the teachers have gone back to work. And in the interim, the government is already meeting with them. And so I love that. I come up with these things, but you are the man. You know more about this thing than me. I said Tendulkar could have come from Guyana or Trinidad. But Kanai and Kalicharan could not have come from India. They had to have come from Guyana or the Caribbean. I love Kapil Dev in my time. I think we are the same age. And Imran Khan. I think they were great bowlers. They could have possibly come from Guyana or Trinidad or so forth. But Michael Oldin and Colin Croft couldn't come. They couldn't come from Pakistan and India. They couldn't come from South Africa or Zimbabwe. They had to come from Guyana. What says thou?
Oh, absolutely. You sound like a real student to the game. Just get, you've been studying this thing and the history of our great cricketers. Now, in as much as Alvin and I started together, by the way, we made our debut together for Guyana. But in as much as I love him to death, he's still a friend. We don't call his name in the same breath with the great Rohan Babulal. Rohan to me was, you talk about a batting genius.
Yeah.
A lot of the shots that the guys are now playing, Rohan used to play those shots, and everybody used to look at them and just wonder. But he invented a lot of those backward sweep and he was I remember you talking about getting in and helping it, like you get a bouncy, get in, you help it, you use the pace of the ball and help it behind backward or square, and of course Garden Greenwich, he lifts it up. But I remember looking at Rohan in a game against Jamaica, and Newton Dow came up and bowl a bouncer, and Rohan got in and hooked it backward, wide of the man, he got a four, and Dowie came up again, so they moved the man out where he hooked it, and Rohan got in and hooked it square, and then they moved the man and put the man square, and Rohan got in and hit it over mid wicket. It's just like if it is. He was these guys. I had some pleasant memories with them. I remember myself and Basil Butcher. We playing in Case Cup against Everest, and I was batting really good that afternoon, and I got out at 79, and Basil was passing me coming into bat, and he turned to me. He said, "Oh, you don't like making hundreds? Go back in the pavilion and look and see how to make 100." He's gonna make 100 that same afternoon. Those guys is just like if they know beforehand, what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. When batsmen like me, we gotta hope and pray. We nervous that we probably gonna get by. But these guys, he told me that he was gonna make 100 that afternoon when he was passing. He said, "Go back and look, sit down in the pavilion and see how to make 100." 100 and a big 100. But those guys are great. Of course, Alvin Alvin was one of the more reliable West Indian batsmen, but Rohan was in a class by himself in terms of just raw talent.
Yes,
But
I have to agree with you. When I was yet a boy, I hadn't seen Rohan at that time, and I remember Fred Wills used to be on the radio, and every time he go down, said the next West Indies captain shall be none other than Rohan Babulal Kanai. And I remember that was when Kanai was about to be appointed in 1973 as the captain, because I was now coming in as a small boy into the game, and the mystique of this man Kanai, and you could measure it because you're in a village with predominantly African Guyanese. There's a tension in the country between the two ethnic groups. But when you hear the men, because in those days it was mostly men who were following the game. Today, if you go into Guyana, you may be shocked. Women are now much more knowledgeable in the game than men sometimes. But you hear those men who are Garveyites and Quayanites and Burnhamites. But when they talk about Kanai, you can hear it in their voice, you can see that twinkling in their eye, that this is something special, and this here is beyond race, when they talk about Kanai. So you're quite right. Vince saw the teachers strike.
Yep.
As the last time we talked a week ago, a lot happened since then, and here we are today. Your takeaways?
Well, it appears, and I say appears, it appears to be progress. In terms of the government finally, of course, that because of the intervention of the legal system, the government finally decided to come to the table. But here again, Dr. Hines, you can see that you really can't trust this government. They go to the bargaining table, they agree on one thing, to have this multi-year increase in salaries. They decided, and I believe the teachers from 2019 to 23, and they're saying that never happened.
Yeah.
But it's a pattern, because even sometimes you hear Jagdio and the rest, and even our president, even though they're on video, they're still denying that they said stuff that is on video. I even saw the vice president in his up to this last press conference, and he says it all the time. He was denying that he ever said that he was going to renegotiate the contract. And this guy's in parliament and fuming at the mouth, and the guy said that he really didn't say that. But it's the same thing. They go in there, and then they come out, even though they've made the agreement. They go, we didn't do that. So we got to watch them. Like my good friend Amanzo or Walter, and she said, we got to watch them. We got to watch them. So that's what's going on here. You have to watch them, because they're going to say they're going to say something, and then they're going to deny it, even if it's on video. But anyway, I'm hoping that there is progress. But I'm going to tell you something, and I've Dr. Hines, Guyana, the richest country, pound for pound on the planet, and yet we have the lowest salary, the lowest salaries for teachers in the entire Caribbean, with those smaller islands paying twice what Guyana is paying without any oil. That is ridiculous. And I have said, just some rock-based calculation, even 50% is an insult to teachers. 50%, right now the teachers are averaging $179, let's say $180,000. Okay, so even if you give them 50%, it's an extra $90,000, $270,000 a year. Okay, that's about between 12 and 1,300 US. Those little bitty islands they're getting like more like 1,600. While one island is getting close to 2,000.
Yeah, Grenada is 1,800.
Even with 50%. So I'm saying that even 50%, it's an insult and very menial. And you know what? Even if you take 50%, let's say 50%, let's say they agree to 50%, but it shouldn't be anything less, because even Barrett himself was jumping from the rooftop in Parliament. He and the president, they wanted 50% for the teachers. With 50% raise for the teachers, all it would take, Dr. Hines, is take 2%. 2% out of that infrastructure budget. 2%.
Mm-hmm.
Right now they've got 58%, which means that in that entire budget, out of every $100 in that budget, $58 is going to infrastructure. It is crazy. It doesn't happen in any other part of the world. But let's say, okay, that's what you want. Take 2% of that, 2%, and you still got 56%. Yeah. Take 2%. That's all you need to give them a 50% raise. 2% of that. Now you tell me, why isn't that more than reasonable?
Why is that more than reasonable?
Education, these teachers, they are the foundation in the development and building of a nation. It's about education. That's what these teachers do. And we've got to recognize their value. They're the ones who spend probably the most time with our kids and teach them values, and even more than what they learn from their parents. Besides the education part, but besides the math and the English and that type of stuff, it's the value to keep them out of getting straying and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. And I mean, you and I could relate to that in terms of the value our teachers had in framing our lives.
Yes, Dr. Vincent Adams here tonight talking about the centrality of education and why the teachers need to be given a fair share. Ralph is saying Lester Board once said that he was instrumental in removing Canaya's captain. Can you comment? I had never heard that, Ralph. But if Lester was and Lester was a fast bowler, you might have played against him, Vincent.
Who was that?
Lester Board.
No, I can't remember. I remember Lester King.
Lester King was from Jamaica. Yeah.
Right, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
Board
Prime
might
Minister.
have been after me. He might because
Prime Minister Lester Board. He was a fast bowler in the 60s. He might have stopped playing by the time you came on the scene.
Okay, yeah, because I did not even know. I know he was a prime minister, but I cannot remember playing with him. I know the only prime minister that I played with was Vance Avery.
Vance Avery, yes, Vance
Avery from Nevis. From Nevis.
Yes,
but really, he was another good. As a matter of fact, we all made our debut together in 1969.
1969, yes.
If I remember, he made 40 something in both innings against us. He was a song player. Really, really nice guy. One of the nicest gentlemen that I've had the opportunity of knowing. But I remember Vance. But I can't remember. Lester Board must have been before.
Yeah, Lester before your time. Yes, now that I'm thinking about it. Lester would have stopped playing by the time you came on the scene in the late 60s. But Ralph, if Lester was instrumental in getting Rohan out of the team, might have that's a good term, because once Rohan was removed as captain or gave up the captaincy, Clive Lloyd took over, and the rest is history. So, but Kanai did come back in 1975 at the World Cup.
Yes.
And played under Lloyd and made 57, I think, when Lloyd made that century, and we won the first 50 overs World Cup.
Why you an encyclopedia of West Indian cricket?
Oh yeah, they used to wake up from a bed, Vince, to answer question about two things. When my friend they get argument, they come and knocking for me to answer the cricket and calypso.
Well, I know for sure about the calypso, but now I'm learning that is also cricket.
Yeah. I had a friend, Quentin Bacchus. We could make the cricket team, so we were commentators. He was Tony Coach and I was Red Ferreira. So we had to get the statistics right. Dr. Vince Adams here on Politics One. Dr. Adams, you're making a very important point there. Because if you don't pay teachers well, you are not going to attract the caliber of teachers that you need. If you start to pay well, some of your best students coming out of high school are going to gravitate again towards teaching. And those who gravitate towards teaching is out of love that they're doing it. So you still need to pay them as much as they're being paid in the Bahamas or Grenada, or because that's where they're going to go. And if Grenada paying them $1,800 and you paying them $1,600, they would rather stay and take $1,600 in Guyana than to go to Grenada, work for $1,800 and get installed in a Bilania, and so on. So it is important that we keep the remuneration for teachers competitive so that we can attract quality teachers, but we can also hold our teachers in Guyana and for them not to go to other places. And one other thing I want you to comment on, and this is in keeping with what we've been talking here tonight. If you have children, when we look at those who do well, the 20-something subject, you check. They wake up early in the morning, they're gone to lesson. Then they left, they're gone to school. When they left school, they're gone to lessons again. So they left early in the morning before 6, before Bird Wife Week. And they're going home till night. They're going to get 20-something subject. But they won't learn how to play cricket. They won't learn how to play table tennis. They won't learn drama, and they won't learn the things that go into making us, all of us, what we are. You know, here you are as an academic, but you played sport for your country because the school system in your time allowed space for you to play cricket. My cousin Orin Gordon, who is now a Lindener, bright like sin. That by when we get in 4 subject at GC, he gets in 7 in those days. Bright. But you put a cricket ball in his hand. He was good enough to play for Guyana youth team and could have played more for the Guyana team. I saw him bowl Desmond Haynes in a warm-up match at Border, Orin Gordon. Excellent fast bowler. He played table tennis for us. He played football. He was bright, but because the system allowed for him to do other things, to play sport, to engage in drama, to engage in debating, you are leaving school the real deal. Our kids today, the 40 or 50 that get a 20-something subject and top the Caribbean, they are doing that because their parents are able to push them and program them in a certain way. And they're going to learn about cricket later on. But what we want are our students to be bright like bulb, bright like sin, and still be good at sport, to be good at drama, to be good at poetry, to be good at calypso. Vincent Adams.
You know, and you know, every time I go, especially to the inner cities, even in the US, when I go give talks to the inner cities kids, and I always tell them, like, you know, I use my example. Had I not participated in sports, I could have never achieved academically what and professionally because of that discipline. You know, I remember I used to get up early in the morning, 5 o'clock, whether it's rain or sun, I'm getting up, I'm running the hills. People used to think that I'm crazy. You know, if you think that you know, like I'll be out there and folks would be going to work at Linden, I'll run the street. And if you think that I look crazy, normally when you wait until they see me running backwards. And I used to turn heads. This young man is crazy. But guess what? You know, I was one of the as a matter of fact, I was even runner-up at the age 14 for the Open Table Tennis Championship for Linden, the entire Open 14, and the runner-up at 14. When I was 14 years old and 18, I was the football captain for my school. So I played all the sports, but had it not been for that discipline and focus, and here's most important, the competitiveness. The competitiveness, because when I came up here, into academics, even when I came up here, you even bringing second, like my kids and grandkids, they would come and tell me, Dad, I got 95 on the test, and instead of me tell them, I would say, what did you get wrong? they, they always throw that back at me. But getting back to the government, there is no vision, there is no understanding as what it takes to build a country, Dr. And it's not only about the teachers. The teachers are bad enough. One of the most fundamental things you learn as an administration, as a leader of a country, and it's retention of your employees. And you're skilled, especially if you're running the country. How do you retain them? But in Guyana, when you hear that 85% of our graduates from UG are leaving the country, the same thing with the teachers. It doesn't matter to them. The only thing that you hear, well, we're going to recruit from abroad. They really don't care. Instead of looking at the way of retaining our citizens, board citizens, they prefer to say, well, that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're going to recruit nurses and we're going to recruit teachers. We have been losing teachers, you remember, like as soon as they graduate. Look, I listened to Coretta McDonald talking about, they now came up with a scheme of graduating all of the teachers, 200 and something, regardless of whether they graduated or not for real. They're going to give them a certificate as if they graduated without even passing the exams. So it doesn't matter. All of these folks, all they're doing is trying to check a box, but our focus should be on retaining, keeping, like you said, keeping our teachers. Because when you hire from abroad, Dr. Hines, all it is now, you become a hired gun. Those teachers who are coming from abroad, they're not coming, to say, well, okay, their heart and soul is in the country and developing the student. They're coming to make a buck. And as soon, if they can make a bigger buck at someplace else in Brazil or Venezuela or Barbados, they're gone. Whereas our native Guyanese, they want to stay here, because when you get into teaching, when you become a teacher or a nurse, you've got to like that profession. You ain't coming in there for the money. Okay? You come in, they're special, they're special people, because they're people focused, teachers and nurses. So that is why they take these kind of jobs. But when you're not compensating them with minimum wage, not even getting minimum wage, they have no other options. It's desperation that you're not going to even encourage anybody to go into the teaching profession. So those are the kind of vision they do not understand. It's all about building nice fancy buildings for them, giving all the contracts to their friends and infrastructure, and living in the big house, and they don't care about the 99% of the regular people in Guyana. So that's our problem.
Yeah, Selvin Benjamin is saying Linden was all about sports after work. And I mean, you don't say more. When I was still a schoolboy, and even after I left school, Linden would produce runners, athletes at a dime a dozen. They were all some of the names. I was trying to remember some of the names back then, but you couldn't win at school sports after time. It was Linden Region 10 up there, producing all those athletes. I don't know what is happening now, because I really don't pay much attention. But I remember Linden and West Bobis. You used to produce some fast people and so on. But it was all part of the school system. You can go back then and see people who came through the school system, whether it's in cricket or soccer or table tennis, because at one time we were very good as a nation in table tennis. We were doing very, very, very well in that sport. And now, because these things are not in the school system, we see how much we have declined, both as a nation, Guyana, but as a region. When it comes to sport, perhaps Jamaica is a little bit ahead of the rest of us because they have invested. But you have to make an investment in education. And you know, back in them days, you didn't have no specialist coach. The teacher at the school was your cricket coach.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, without question.
You compare, and that teacher wasn't getting paid
Nope,
to be a coach. You're getting paid as a teacher.
that's right. But also, Dr. Hines, going back to the teachers and trying to in terms of retaining teachers, and they teach because they like what you're working with students. What is happening now? You talk about lessons, like these extra lessons. In our time, when we get extra lessons, we didn't have to pay for it.
No.
Nowadays, that's where teachers, that's their second job. As a matter of fact, they wouldn't even, they'll just be lazy around during the day so that they can make money during the evenings.
That's right.
So so that's the kind of system that, that's what's the culture that we have. And as far as the government is concerned, that is okay. That is what we need to stamp out, to give them a livable wage so that they don't have to be worrying about going out there and making money off of these same poor kids. And you hit the nail on the head. These extra lessons, instead of going out and having recreation and playing sports, they're spending this extra time having to go to extra early in the morning or late at night. So they ain't got no time. They ain't got no time for doing that. I remember when I went to Mackenzie High School, and Mackenzie High School is right next to the Mackenzie Sports Club.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up in a Mackenzie Sports Club. So in the afternoon after 3 o'clock, they had a hole in the fence. We come over the fence, and then they had a hole in the wall at Mackenzie Sports Club. Go on there, cricket practice. And when it get dark, we go into the pavilion, and then I play table tennis. And then I go home, wake up in the morning, go run the hills again. But that was the routine all the time, And now, by the way, since you're talking about the Mackenzie Sports Club, I don't know if you read what is going on here up to recently. There was an article that was where, and they're doing the same thing across the country, by the way. They're taking away those facilities. I grew up, like myself and others, the kids at Mackenzie, we dominated, even in recent years, dominated into school sports.
Yeah.
And now they've taken away that facility. It was an all-purpose facility. The government came in there. They brought in a Trinidadian contractor. They didn't communicate or get the local people involved. And now they've turned it into what I heard, that is going to be just for cricket. We played everything. When we had any kind of a big event, it was the Mackenzie Sports Club. That's where everybody went. And now the government took it over. They did not even employ the local people to do what they're doing at the ground. Now we're hearing that it's not going to be the multi-purpose facility that it used to be. All it is going to be a cricket stadium. So people are up in arms and upset over that. That is not right. And they're doing the same thing, I think, in Bartik, another facility, and all over the country. That is not right. Just this dictatorship type of attitude, that to hell with the community and to hell with what we care about. They're going to do what they want to do. Again, to put some money in their friends and family's pocket for doing the war.
Yeah. There's no way. If you want to develop a country, you have to know where the moving parts are. You got to know what is the comparative advantage that Linden has. What is the comparative advantage that Quarantine got, and Westboro Beast and so on. And you put those things together. That's how you come up with a national strategy and a national vision.
Yeah.
I mean, they play cricket at Linden, but clearly on the scale, cricket may be number 3. They're now into athletics. They're now into football, soccer. They're now into basketball and so on. You have to know your society. There's one thing, Guyana is now going to be 99 in a couple of days. He tells me that every day. David, these people do not understand politics. They don't understand their own country.
Yep.
They don't understand their own country. So quite apart from their political recklessness, part of it is ignorance. They have no idea about their own country and the people in their country and what is it that makes them tick. You couldn't go on the sugar estate and looking for a Colin Craft to come from the sugar estate. The sugar estate were producing batsmen and spinners.
Yeah.
You see, and you have to understand where to go and get the Colin Crafts and the Keith Camerons and so forth back in those days, to know where the folks. Look at where a Shamar Joseph comes from. You see, so if you understand your country, you understand what to invest where, and this is the thing about this government. The ignorance added in with the arrogance.
Yep.
We are in bad shape. I was doing my usual late Thursday night routine, and that's just to look at the vice president press conference, largely because as a student of politics, whether you like what people say or not, you as I tell my students, you got to hold your nose. Teacher George said, when you go to him and you say you like politics, he said, "Why you like politics?" Say, "Yes, Teacher George." He said, "I'll give you good advice." You know what, Teacher George? He said, "Once you go in politics, you have to part your stomach in two. Part for eat and part for vomit."
And that's a new one, that guy. I never heard of that before.
George Young, Teacher George Young.
And it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes. So when I got to listen to Jack Dio, I got part my stomach in two. You know? But I listened. And I heard last night they peppering him about questions and what Chris Ram say, what you say. And he said, I'm not answering no question on those people. I'm not answering. But one thing I do, I agree with Vince Adams. And I throw back. I said, well, let me hear what the man say they know. And then he said, the billboards that Exxon putting up, Vince Adams is right. Those billboards are misleading. I said, Jack Dio, that's the face. Jack Dio actually agreed that he was wrong all the time and that Vince Adams is right. I wonder he take medicine, as what people would say. What's going on here? And anyhow, so the vice president has agreed with you. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I had to get up and walk around to make sure that I'm awake. I am not kidding you. When I said no, this year, I shake my head, I got up and walk around to make sure that I'm awake. This man admitted finally, and you would not believe the number of letters I've written on this subject. I try to make it as simple as possible, and the man would get up there and just lambaste me. I was talking sheer nonsense. So I don't know what happened with this guy to come out and say, first of all, it's outside of his character to even admit. But here's the other part that he admitted to, which is what I even on your show and everybody else, I always say, when you look at the whole thing about the full liability cover for a spill and everything else, I always say that Exxon is running the government of Guyana. You know what the man said? Not only did he say he agree with me that it's misinformation being spread by Exxon, he said anybody reading that billboard, he agreed. They're going to say that Exxon is running the government of Guyana. I could not believe it. So now, but here's the other part of it. I'm going to make this statement here. Okay, Mr. Vice President, now that you agree that Exxon is misleading your people, the people that you're supposed to represent, demand, please, you should be right at the head of the line to demand that Exxon stop misleading the people of Guyana by tearing down those billboards. Tell them to tear those billboards down. If you now are convinced, which is what we have been asking, is that they need to take down those billboards from day one. So now that you are convinced, and so please, it is your responsibility now to demand and to make sure that Exxon tear down those billboards. If not,
Dr. Vincent Adams there frozen a little bit, but no, yes, you're back, Vincent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did I lose you, or did you?
Yeah, you froze up for about 30 seconds.
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. Now, with now that he has admitted,
yes,
that Exxon is misleading the people, his people, the people of Guyana that he represents, he needs to stop them from misleading the people, because that is his responsibility.
Yes.
Is to tell Exxon to tear down those billboards now. Tear the billboards down. And if not, that means that you or yourself are in cahoots with them misleading the people. So it is your responsibility, Mr. Vice President, to demand that Exxon tear down these billboards immediately.
Immediately. And Dr. Vince Adams here tonight called the president, the vice president yesterday, agreeing with Dr. Adams that they're misleading billboards. And now that he has agreed that they're misleading billboards, then it's time to tear it down. Dr. Adams,
let me tell you something, and I hope that you do the same thing. This is one for the archives, okay? I've stored that away. That has to be for the archives, because I don't think we will ever hear again this vice president admitting to anything. I don't know if there's anything else, but this here has to be history. The vice president has admitted to an error or misspeaking or whatever it is you want to call it, or just flat out lying to start with. This is the first time that he's admitting that he lied, or he made a mistake, or it was just pure ignorance, or whatever it is. This here is definitely history and for the archives.
Yes. Teacher George will say, bye. Jack Dew says, so world go in.
That's right.
The world go in. World go in. Welcome to Politics 101. In case you're just joining us, all my book of family, them from Buxton, Janice, Danette, Denise, all the bookers. You see, we have two big people at the market at two stands. These were two systems, Miss Booker and Miss Canil. They are the biggest stand in Buxton Market. And they're sisters. And when me auntie sent me now, she said, you're going at Miss Booker. You're not going at Miss Canil, you're going at Miss Booker. And one time we got Miss Booker and get a thing was preserved shrimps. In those days we said preserved shrimps.
Yeah, I remember those preserved shrimps.
So I'm gonna buy at Miss Canil. And that lady tear me up in a room. She said, I send you to Miss Booker. If Miss Booker get, you come back and tell me Miss Booker get. And let me send you at Miss Canil. And Miss Booker, Miss Canil is two sisters, you know. But there's something about allegiance.
Yes.
And when she talked to Miss Canil, very good, you know, nice and so on and thing. You talk to Miss Canil, but she got over and shop at Miss Booker. And as you get older, you really realize it's a lesson in loyalty.
Yes.
That I think this present generation doesn't quite understand.
Yep.
There's a lesson in loyalty, that you are loyal without being disagreeable. There were times when Miss Canil, Miss Buchan get thing, I got to get it from Miss Canil. You see? But I think a lot of those values, now you look back, that it's gone. And when you look at the sons and daughters of those people, and a lot of them are following the footsteps of their parents and grandparents wherever they are. Miss Booker is still alive. She is, I think Miss Booker is about 99 now. She's gonna be 100 and thing. Right, and she's still. I remember we were talking name at a night. We there in Washington D.C. She come up for she cousin, she sister son birthday, and we talking a name, old time name, and Miss Booker sit down there. She was 80 something that time. She said, "But are you just not know that story, Miss Booker? How we gonna know about that story?" She said, "Not tell me that." And we used to talk them story in front of you. But you didn't understand the deepness of what we were saying. Tremendous. And Guyana has a book called Buxton Friendship in Memory and Print, and the point he makes in that book is that a village is a particular thing. And the way in which you talk about Christianborg, for example.
Yeah.
And I mean a commitment to something about that, something about Christianborg that makes you, and it's the same thing whether you're from Anns Grove or you're from
it's
Port
that
Moran
family, is that family atmosphere where it's the village. I always say it's the village that raised me, for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
When she spoke about it in her way, I said, wait a minute, that's exactly what I and others like myself used to experience in Christianborg, where the entire neighborhood raise you. It's just like if you've got a whole, a bunch of fathers and a bunch of mothers and everything. They look out for you as a little kid growing up.
Miss Booker gonna send me make she into a little girl. Come say she's about 99. They tell me she's a 101 years.
Wow, 101.
She gonna say, Cecilia, you turned me into a young girl. She over 101 years, Miss
Wow,
Booker.
congratulations.
Yeah, still alive, right? And a ton. And when I hear people say black people don't know business, they don't know entrepreneurship. I mean, them people. It was a bunch of sisters, all of them. Miss Mary was another sister. Miss the other sister is still alive, Miss Bacchus. They all did business.
Yep.
They do it like when water running from dog back. And it's just that Miss Madeline Bacchus, all of them were into the buying and selling and doing that thing. So when I hear people say, but black people don't know to business, I wonder if they're crazy.
Yeah.
I want to know if they're crazy.
They learn it firsthand. It's grassroots. It's like like you talk about the West Indian cricketers. We never had coaches and those type of things, but we played from morning, from the time the sun come up till night, and we play on them street, with wasn't any fancy wickets. You learn it firsthand. It's the same thing. They didn't go to university or were taught business in school. They had to learn it in real life business.
Real life business, Manchester and the Quarantine Coast. Carlos is then. We always talk about Manchester and the Quarantine Coast. I had good memories of Manchester. Used to stay. That lady had a house in Manchester there that my friend Mboya used to live at. She used to be a singer. Used to play piano and so on, and she had a big house there in Manchester. And Mboya, you all gonna remember is what I'm talking about. Vesterlo, I think was her name. I can't remember, but one of them ladies that at the house there, we used to go there and stay at Manchester. Yes, Manchester is one of the places like go to Alness. You go over in Alness there, wild meat. Got it. So you see, I eat a watrush there. Watrush. Watrush there by old lad. Wonderful experience in those villages. Vince, we talked about that oil spill in Tobago, and we talked about it with the possible connection to Guyana. But more than that, the oil spill in Tobago has, I think, brought many of the Caribbean leaders to their senses.
Yes.
And the possibility of what could happen in our Caribbean. I did not realize the volume of oil and gas that passes through our Caribbean on a daily basis.
Yes.
Talk to us.
Well, just to put things into perspective, David, this boat, Kulibai or whatever it is, that belongs to Guyanese, by the way, because I think it's going to be proven that that's the case, I believe, based on all of the information that are coming out. And this thing is going to be, we're going to find out who owns it and who that person or persons are connected to eventually. But in any case, that boat, it had the highest, I hear all kinds of estimates. The highest estimate that I've heard is 30,000 barrels. Think about it. 30,000 barrels. Right now, and that was just a one-time thing. Right now, with the 650,000 barrels every day that we produce, we have a ship that traverses the Caribbean, leaving Guyana with its oil. One ship every 2 days, at least every 2 days, maybe 2 ships in 1 day, etc. But at least every 2 days, we have at least one ship with 1,000,000 barrels. So at least every other day, we've got a ship about 5 times that spill that we have. And so just imagine if that same ship could run aground on a reef or something, and you have a spill, what would be the devastation? A spill 35 times. Now let's fast forward. Within the next few years, we will be producing 1.3 million barrels every day, which will be twice what we're currently producing. So you would have more than one ship every single day with 1,000,000 barrels of oil coming through, passing through that entire Caribbean. So you can see where the risk is increasing. And the one lesson, and I hate to say, things happen for a reason, but we are fortunate, and this here is really a lessons learned. And it happened with only a small spill, to see the devastation that it has caused Tobago right now with this very, very tiny spill compared to what can happen with a major spill from these ships. Now, and I'm not even mentioning, besides the ship itself, if we get a well blowout at the well itself, you remember what happened in the Macondo? When we had for 8 to 9 days, we had all gushing into the Caribbean. So we've got two sources of risk here. We got the ship passing through, and we got on a daily basis, something could happen with the spill from the well. We can have a blowout. And on top of that, this government is recklessly allowing Exxon, through greed, to produce above the required safe operating limit. The safe operating limit for, let's say, Liza 1, it's supposed to be 120,000 barrels per day. They're exceeding that by over 30-something%. They're producing at 160,000 barrels every day, over 30%. The safe operating limit that is in the environmental impact assessment, which is sacred. You could never exceed an EIA limit, safety limit, in the United States. So those are the risks we have. And then on top of that, this government is fighting. Even though they're putting at a high risk, remember, we've got this high risk of a spill. They are refusing to let Exxon have liability coverage if a spill occurs. You remember the case that was one that we put into law and into the permit when I was at the EPA, and when I left, they decided to push that aside, and two courageous citizens had to take them to court. And of course, remember the Judge Kissoon's ruling, overwhelmingly in the favor of what was there that we put into the permit. And the government went against its own people to say, no, we do not need any coverage. instead of protecting Exxon. And here's the, these folks, they have the gall. The vice president says, well, it's going to bankrupt Exxon. If we tell Exxon that if we have a spill, they're going to have to cover the costs of a spill. Oh, we can't do that because it's going to bankrupt Exxon. Now, what he's saying is that because if Exxon is not paying for it, we will have to pay for it. What he's saying, it's not good for Exxon to be bankrupt, but it's okay for Guyana and the rest of the Caribbean to be bankrupt, because if we are left with a bill, we will be bankrupt. Guyana and the Caribbean. But he's protecting Exxon. No, I cannot allow Exxon to be bankrupt. Well, hell, if it's not Exxon, somebody has to pay for it, and it will be us. And we don't have any kind of the money that Exxon has. So that's how these guys are operating, very callously and uncaring when it comes to their own people and their own country that they're supposed to protect in favor of Exxon. So those are the risks, and this is a wake up call, and we better watch them again to make sure and put pressure on them. Just like how we put pressure on them with this billboard. When they finally admit, I hope that they're gonna finally see the light of the day, because of the pressure. Because I don't think they've got any conscience. So it's only because of pressure why they're doing this thing. I don't think they care about anything else but filling their pockets and their friends' pockets. So, but that is the risk not only to Guyana, by the way, it's for the whole Caribbean.
To the whole Caribbean. Welcome. Carlos Malcolm, yes, Vestaloo. When I pass in there nowadays, I just look to see if but our house must have fallen down a long time. Because I'm telling you, this was in the 70s when we would go up there to hold concerts in the Quarantine Coast, and we would stay there in Manchester at Vestaloo's house. And nowadays you pass through Manchester, it's not the Manchester I knew 40 odd years ago. I mean, you get big concrete structure and all kind of thing up there now. And yes, Gavin Liverpool, yes, Miss Bacchus, Miss Madeline Bacchus, Tatatam wife. Yes, you is the right person you're talking about. Vince, Lula, President Lula from Brazil came to Guyana. He did something that very few leaders had the courage to do. And somebody was on this program, I think a couple of nights ago, and she said, Lula could poke them in the eye because he don't want nothing from them. The CARICOM leaders came, the teachers are on the street. It's like the teachers, they notice the teachers. Lula came, he not only addressed the issue of trade unionism, workers' rights, but he also talked about balancing or marrying infrastructure with investment in human development. A good day for solidarity, worker solidarity, country to country solidarity, not just giving solidarity to governments, but giving solidarity to the people of the country. What says you?
Oh, absolutely. That was a breath of fresh air. And like you said, with the Mia Motleys and the rest of them in the Caribbean who were just, kowtowing, if you will, to the Guyana government because of its oil, and you in your introduction, these were the same people who you couldn't even enter their countries, when things were bad in Guyana. They held you up at the airport. I've never had the experience of it, but I understand. You mentioned it in the introduction part. They had a special holding area for Guyanese. When you enter the country, so suddenly now, they've become the best friends with our president and vice president. But President Lula, that was a breath of fresh air, and you were absolutely correct. He's not dependent upon them for anything, and the guy, what he said is absolutely correct, and I believe, and he said it in the words. I think it was carefully chosen words. The man said the balance of between infrastructure and social development was what is it, the life, but anyway, I think it was the social development also, you know,
Yeah.
but anyway, and I believe it's because of what he saw, because remember, he even expanded on that. He said, as I drove from the airport to Georgetown, I see a lot of fancy new buildings and
Mhm.
infrastructure. So the man said, I hope the rest of the country, you know, in the inner part of outside of this one East Bank Road, I hope that they're seeing the same development. So, like you said, it's a poke in the eye. So I believe those were, because I think he knows he's been reading what's going on. So let's go to this balance. And the other thing, I hope he's teaching them some arithmetic again, just like how I had to teach to school the vice president in arithmetic when 52% is not 52%. It's an impossible number that he was trying to calculate. What the man was saying, how the hell could 58% be for infrastructure, right? And then everything else, which is,
Mhm.
so you've got 58% for infrastructure, but everything else is 42%. I think he knows that, because I'm sure he's been looking at the debate. He was well prepared before he arrived. So I think they were carefully choosing words in the right perspective. And I think that is why he was. I think it was direct, and I think it was specific, and it was targeted. The man said the balance between infrastructure and social development. I think the quality of life. I think he said the quality of
Yes,
life,
quality of life. Yes.
and nobody that 58% for infrastructure alone and 42% for everything else cannot be a balance. He would not have used those words if he did not know. So I believe it was a direct message to say, well, here. And then the man said, I see all these fancy, because a lot of the commentators say the same thing, including myself. As you drive from the airport to Georgetown, all these new fancy homes, the big homes, you would swear that Guyana is the richest, everybody else is enjoying it. And the man said, well, I hope what I saw along that road is the same thing happening in the rest of the country. He
There you
only
go.
made that statement because he knows that that's not the case.
That's
So,
not the
so
case.
I hope, but these guys really don't care. I hope that they pay attention to him. But it was a serious commentary on his part
Serious
that
commentary.
gave
And
them, send a message to them.
Vince, there, there is a group of teachers, young teachers that I've by default fallen into mentoring them, because through the strike, of course, the teachers are young people, and they're not into the political nuances and all of those stuff. So they needed some mentoring through. And one of those young teachers asked me one night. She said, Dr. Hines, all these international leaders, they can't tell this government to pay baby money. And she was being very serious when she asked me that question. So I had to go into a whole thing of international relations and non-interference and so on. And I tried to explain to her what Lula would eventually did. I didn't convince her. I knew, as a teacher you will know when you get to it. I didn't convince her. And as soon as Lula uttered those words, she didn't wait for me to tell she said, oh, that's what he was trying to explain to me, that a leader could come and could say something and make them feel shame. I said, and it's not the president of Ecuador talking, or Paraguay or something. This is the president of Brazil. And when he
Yep.
speaks with the authority of the Brazilian state and all the power that comes with that. And in effect, what he was telling Jack Dio and the rest of them is what old people should tell you: bag your face. You want shame? Bag your
Yep.
face.
Yep.
And that's what Lula was telling them: bag your all face
Yep.
with what you all are doing in this country. And he did it with grace and style and poise. And he did it because the teachers made it possible
Yep.
for him to do that. Um, Dr. Adams, anything you want to talk about that I didn't ask you about?
No, of course, as usual, I look forward to our Friday night chat. It's it's nice and casual, and we speak from the heart. Um, I just want to close again with some key things that we discuss here tonight,
Mm-hmm.
that we should be using it repetitively. This whole message that came from Mr. Lulo, we need to be repeating it, throw it in the faces of these politicians. What exactly did this man say? Is that balance, which we have been saying the same thing. There is no balance there anymore. You cannot have a balance with 58% for one sector and 42% for all of the other sectors. And we need to bring that to the attention, keep putting the pressure on this government, because it's the quality of life that he said, between infrastructure and the quality of life for folks. And the quality of life is more important than this infrastructure stuff. You get teachers, for example, what they're going through right now. And these are the people who actually help build the quality of life. And even the infrastructure part, it's all about the teachers who prepare our skilled labor to become engineers, and to get into infrastructure and economics and everything. It is that grounding that you get from the bottom, from these same teachers. So I just want to leave with that, with that message, that powerful message from Mr. Lula. And he did not say it, he did not say that lightly. It was meant as a serious message to this government, because I think he understands what is happening here, and we need to continue to make sure that that message does not ever get lost when we talk about what's best for Guyana.
When we talk about what best from Guyana. My brother, as usual, thanks and safe journey. And I'll be in touch with you as we go through the next week. So by the time we come on Friday, we are prime.
That's
Thank
right.
you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks a lot, David. And thanks to our listeners again.
Yes, and that's what this program is about. You see, Vince Adams is AFCI's WPA, but you can't tell from the conversation. There's party and there is party. There's a way in which I'm trying, in my own small way, to say to our Guyanese people, but we could do better than we doing. We could do better than we doing. That here are two men who do not belong to the same political party, but chatting and talking and agreeing and having a conversation is an example to our country of how we need to conduct ourselves. It's not the political party you come from that is of paramount importance. What is of paramount importance is what you have to offer to your country. And I think that's what the exact example that we are trying to set here. At the end of the day, no one party, no one individual leader has the answer to Guyana's problems. No one. If we all can come together and bring our pet projects together and lay it out on a table and come up with a common vision that we all can agree to, our country would be a better country. I'm not one of the persons who go around and tell Indian people they're wrong to vote for the PPP or tell black people they're wrong to vote for the PNC. If they choose to vote for those parties out of ethnic sentiments, they should be applauded. It is not who you vote for, is having given them your vote, what they do with your vote. What they do with your vote. And here is where we have to come up with a new political culture. A new political culture in which we can sit down as a people and try to develop our country We have to answer that question now. What kind of developed, rich nation we are going to be? What kind of rich Guyana we are going to be? We have to answer that question. It's not just okay to say we're a rich country, but what kind of rich country? What kind of rich country are we going to be? Are we going to be a country with a soul? Are we going to be a country with a conscience? I listen to Jack Deere every 2 minutes. That is not going to happen. Oh, who the hell are you? That is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. It is when you see these people personalize power. It's them own. We are setting a new example here as to how we conduct ourselves. Because the next time you give those of us on this side of the aisle, the next time you all give us a chance to run this country, I want you all to be as vigilant as you all are of the PPP, to be 10 times more vigilant of us because you vote for us. Don't just vote for people and left it like that. We got to do better. We have to do better. We have to do better. And we have to start doing better right now. Good evening, Oswin King from Atlanta. Good evening, Mr. Fowler. Good evening, Mr. Beckers, Marlon Lorimer. Marlon, you'll be very vocal tonight, and I love that. I love that. We have to do better. It is not about exchanging the PPP for the PNC or the coalition or what it has to be. It's burying the backward governance and politics of the PPP. Burying that. And come up with a new political culture. And I think we are already doing that on these programs, in that we are building a new political culture, that we can sit down as brothers and sisters and talk and discuss and plan and critique. Only that will save our country. Love you all. Have a nice weekend, and I'll be here bright and early on Monday.